Hi guys, welcome back to another hot episode of Sin and Tonic. It is freaking boiling. Yes, I am filming in my underpants. Gonna do. Today's story is that of Daniel and Geoff Seggie, and if I'm honest, this one does give me the heebie-jeebies. Let's go. Sin and Tonic! It's so hot. I think it's just hotter than the sun. It is so hot. We're having a heat wave. We've even been issued with an amber warning. What? For hotness. I didn't even know that existed, but it's like, well, I don't even know if it's cooler in here or out there. I don't know. I'm just going to try. I'm going to soldier on through. Today's story is set in Derby. And I'm going to set the scene for you, okay? So we have father and son. We have Geoff, who's 59, the father, and Daniel, who is 31, and he's the son. And they live together. They moved in together and moved onto a housing estate called Mackworth. The reason for this is... They moved in together because... Geoff and his wife, Daniel's mum, they separated, they got divorced. It was very amicable. His ex-wife was even still taking care of his finances and things like that. So it was very, very friendly. And Daniel and Geoff got on, so they moved in together to the estate in Mackworth. So this is the setup. So we have Geoff and Daniel, father and son, living together. Now, Geoff works with his other son, not with Daniel. Daniel actually is a care worker, so he works lots and lots of shifts caring for people. We also have Zoe. Now, Zoe is Daniel's girlfriend. She's got 2 children of her own, and Zoe and Daniel have been together for a while, but they're not living together. Like I say, Daniel lives with his dad, Geoff. So he sees a lot of Zoe though, and they are very close. Let's get straight to the day in question. This is the 1st of December in 2016. Now, Daniel and Zoe, they were meant to be going on a shopping trip together. Get some bits and bobs. It's nearly Christmas. Get some presents, winter clothes, that sort of business. Get down Primark, get loads of socks, all that sort of stuff. I do love Primark, only at Christmas time. Any other time, it's just absolutely mental. It's like people turn into wild, crazy animals and you fear for your life. And everything just gets thrown all over the floor. It's like a jumble sale. It's like, what is this? What's that? I don't like that. No. So, yeah, but at Christmas time, if you go at the right time, everything still looks nice and there's all little bits and bobs, put them in your stockings and, yeah, love it. Anyway, I digress. God, it's the heat, I swear. I am literally sweating from places I didn't even know I could sweat from. My ears. Now, with this shopping trip, Daniel was really specific. He was like, let's meet at 10. Make sure you're ready at 10 a.m. I'm going to come and get you. This is to Zoe. He's like, yeah. So they had a specific time to meet. I never know if I'm saying that correctly. Specific. Pacific is the ocean. Specific time. They had a set time to meet, and that was 10 o'clock. And he was quite adamant about that, 10 o'clock, yeah, 10, be ready for 10, going on about it. And so when 10 a.m. rolled round and he wasn't there, I bet she was like, I'm ready, it's 10 o'clock, where are you, douchebag? And he didn't show up, he wasn't there. So she gave him a little text because she was like, well, this is weird. He actually was really needed me ready at 10, beat the rush or some whatever reason, we don't know. And he's not here. So that's odd, isn't it? Come on. Also, he had actually texted her at 9:30 to say, on my way. But because of his job and being a care worker, he would often get called in at the last minute and have to take on a shift. That just is so annoying, isn't it? But yeah, I could not live my life like that. I like to know exactly what's happening and when. I can't be just free and airy-fairy. Excuse you. So, yeah, that would not be the job for me. So anyway, this is the situation. And basically, he doesn't reply to that message when she's like, what, like, are you okay? Have you been called into work? It's 10 o'clock, you're not here. You know, like, just let me know if you've been called in and we'll postpone it and we'll do it another day. She got no reply. And she assumed, even though this was odd, she did assume that he had been called into work and that he'd taken a shift, and that maybe, like, he was driving, he was called in, and then, like, put his phone in the locker or whatever he did, and he just didn't respond to her. But yeah, it was odd. So as the day rolled on, she became more concerned that he never replied to her message, because basically, you know, what? That is weird, isn't it? Like, out of a whole day, there was no, I'm holding my lip gloss. What? There was, like, no day, like no moment in the day where he had a break, cup of tea, and he could be like, oh God, I'm so sorry. So as the day went on, she was like, this is so weird that he's not responded to me. I feel like I do apologise if I'm sweating from my top lip and you can see it. So she decided to go and look for him, like, go to his house and see, you know, what's going on, talk to his dad and find out the situation. What's going on? She rocks up at Mackworth Estate, and Daniel and Geoff's house is a crime scene. Can you imagine that worry? So, yeah, like, tent outside, all the business, people in the suits and everything, doing all their jobs. Forensics, I believe that is called, Sophie. So, yeah, like, basically horrific. Like, what a horrible thing to turn up to. Yeah, as you can imagine, she was absolutely frantic, as you would be. What's going on? Who's hurt? What's happened? Blah, blah, blah. It's obvious that this is, like, a serious crime scene. And this is so sad for her because she wasn't married to Daniel and isn't, like, a blood relative in any way. She was not in, they were just like, you know, she was no different in their eyes to anyone else standing in the street. So she got no information, even though that, you know, she said, he's my boyfriend and whatever. And that must just be so hard. Like, eventually they just sent her off. They were just like, bye, like, we can't tell you anything. I mean, I can understand. She could be a reporter, all of that. I do understand. But how difficult is that to just be turned away from that horrific, like, you know, such a trauma. That must have been so traumatic. Anyhow, she's sent off. Somehow, before she goes off, she finds out that there is a body. I mean, they don't do all of that for someone like stealing a teapot, do they? So it was pretty obvious that someone's died. So, yeah, so now she's on her merry way. She doesn't know whether it's Daniel, her boyfriend, or Geoff, his dad, or both. Like, she just doesn't know. And also, her boyfriend has not been answering or getting... These things must all be running through her mind. She didn't go home to her own house. She went to her parents' house, which was probably the right thing to do because she's probably a bit of a mess. It's so hot, I can't do this. Oh, excuse me. Oh, it's like, it's 30 in here. 30. 29. Oh my God. So hot. Let's get some air in. I'm going to have a fan in here. It's just going to have to be done. How am I going to do that? It's not a socket. Oh, dumbass. When she was at her parents' house, she decided to ring Daniel's mum. And Daniel's mum, turned out, was actually the person that did request this welfare check. She actually requested that the police go to the property and see if Geoff was okay, the dad. Why, you ask? Well, I shall tell you, because now, let's paint a picture of Geoff for you. Geoff was very hardworking. Geoff was this type of guy that he never missed a day of work. He probably wasn't even ill all that much. You know, just one of those, like, hardy folk. And he would definitely not miss a day's work for, like, having a sniffle or whatever. He was always at work. And he worked, like I said before, with his other son. So every morning, and this is cute, I love people's little routines. I love like hearing about how people live differently and all their little little quirks and things. Every morning at 7 a.m, Geoff would call his son that he works with, and he would say, like, "You're right, blah blah blah, like, how's it going? You ready to go into work?" And just have like a little, like, what's that word, like debriefing, and just a little chat, and just be like, "Anyway, see you soon," and then they go to work together. That is so cute, isn't it? Shut up, dogs. Douches. They would go to work together and they would also come home together, and I just think that is so cute. I just love that. So sweet. Such a sad story. It's always just so sad, isn't it? Anyway, so for 2 days on the trot, Geoff had not made his usual phone call to his son in the morning, and he had not gone in to work. And this was like enough of a red flag for her to call the police and say, "Can you go and check he's all right?" When the police are called to excuse me, air is needed. When the police are called to do a welfare check, they are not allowed to leave until they have made contact with that person and checked that they are actually okay. So, I mean, I guess if they're just like literally not there, they'd have to go. Anyway, it's work for the police. They have to make sure, some way or another, that person is okay. So it would obviously spark an investigation if they were just not at the property or whatever, I guess. Anyway, I'm not doing a Google search. I really want to. Excuse me, I'm just so hot. On this particular day, they had gone to the property, the 1st of December, and yeah, their welfare check did not go as planned. So they arrived, and they are allowed to gain entry because they have to determine that the occupants are okay, and there's every chance that sometimes when these things happen, the people aren't okay and they need assistance, or they're hurt or worse. Yeah, they broke the door down. They shouted, you know, like, "It's the police, is anyone there? You know, are you okay?" I'm guessing things to that effect. And then they started to go through the property to have a look. Downstairs, everything seemed okay. And then they went upstairs and everything was definitely not okay. They found poor Geoff naked on his bed, a very, very bloody scene, basically just covered in blood and dead. He had a range of different wounds on his body, and it looked like whoever had murdered him and attacked him had caught him sort of like in the middle of changing. So that just really gets to me, because that's like, how vulnerable is that? Like, literally you're getting changed to go to bed. Oh my God, like that sent shivers down my spine. Just like you're at home, just getting ready to just getting into your pajamas, and then boom, like horrible, horrible. So he was in between, like his clothes that he'd gotten out of were on the floor and his pajamas were like on the bed or near there. So like he was in that interim of like, he was getting changed, Sophie. He was getting changed. They noted that his body had not been covered. So whoever did this had then made no attempt whatsoever to cover the body or... I feel vulnerable with the door open. It's a catch-22, because when I shut it, I'm hot. When it's open, I feel vulnerable. You know, like, what? It better not be this hot again. Ever. So no attempt to cover the body. And that was interesting, because it seemed like there was no remorse, no shame in what had happened, in what that person had done. Poor Geoff had been stabbed 60 times in the chest, neck, head area. There were other wounds as well, and these were from hammer blows. So not only was he stabbed, but he was also beaten with a hammer. Piece of shit. My ass is numb. There were around 20 other wounds from the hammer blows. And the autopsy would reveal that he had actually been dead and laying like that on his bed for 3 days. 3 days before he was found. That's just insane. What about Daniel? you ask. Yeah, what about Daniel? Where is Daniel? What's happened? They make their way through the property. They check the bathroom, they check another bedroom, and then they check another bedroom, which is Daniel's bedroom, and he's not there. So now it's like, where's Daniel? Where's Daniel? Now, Daniel's family, Zoe the girlfriend, his mother, they could not fathom, that's a good word, isn't it? They could not fathom that Daniel could be any way involved in this situation whatsoever. No. So they were really deeply concerned that Daniel had been abducted and that something awful had happened to Daniel, or like similar to Geoff, and that was their only thought process, that he had been taken, he'd been abducted for some reason. The police thought otherwise. They thought that Daniel was guilty of sin because Geoff's car was missing. That had been stolen, it had been taken, and there was no evidence of any other struggle in the property. Daniel's bedroom was untouched. There were no signs of a man being abducted from this property. None. So it's not looking good for Daniel. Now, this is interesting, and I guess it's like a mother's love, because she did not want to believe it at all that Daniel could have anything to do with this, but she believed that Daniel had been impersonating her husband, ex-husband, Geoff. It's a bit odd, isn't it? Why? On the morning, 3 days previous to the first, I can't do that maths, her ex-husband Geoff texted his other son to say that he was not feeling well and he wouldn't be at work, so please don't come by and pick me up. I'm not feeling well, I'm just going to go back to bed. Red flags going off all over the gaff here, because text, Geoff was not that sort of guy. Geoff was an on the phone guy. Calling in sick or texting in sick, again, whoa, no, he'd go in with an arm lopped off. So yeah, this was all very concerning and just a bit, yeah, it wasn't sitting right. First lot of red flags here. Following day, 7 a.m. The other son, he gets a phone call. The normal, usual 7 a.m. phone call. But it isn't Geoff. It's basically Daniel pretending to be Geoff, but not even like really trying very much. So just basically like, all right, it's Dad. But it wasn't. It's not. No, it's not. You're Daniel. No. That's odd, isn't it? That's batshit. And not only that, but his ex-wife, she got a text from Geoff, again a text, suspicious, just saying, oh, right, get this, can you please move £100 from my savings account to my bank account because I need a little bit more money this month, thanks. What? This is where it gets really spicy, because she then talks to Daniel. I mean, Daniel lives with Geoff. You know, what's going on? Come on now. And she's like, Daniel, can you get your dad on the phone? We need to speak to him. Something's not right. For the last couple of days, this is not normal. We're really worried about your dad. I'm completely making this up, but this is the gist, I imagine. Can we speak to him? And Daniel was like, no. Oh, what? I mean, if that is not, just no, like, no, you can't, no, you can't talk to him. That is just mental. And at that point, that is when the ex-wife just said, sod this, and she called the police and she arranged this welfare check. I mean, it's just, when you're just living your normal life, can you imagine like just this? I mean, it happens to people, it happened to them. Just blows my mind, Just like all of a sudden just dealing with this situation, like what's going on? And what is going on is the last thing that you would be thinking is going on. You'd just be like, this is really weird. You know, you'd be thinking all sorts of things before that. It starts to get a little bit more spicy, because they are searching the house, and what do you know? But underneath Daniel's bed is an opened, brand new like recently opened packet for a brand new kitchen knife. A sharp, yeah, just under the bed. Okay. If that doesn't scream intent, what does? He hardly went downstairs and just like in a moment of rage grabbed a knife and killed his father. No, he bought a brand new knife for the purpose of this. So what is going on? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is going on? Daniel is off skis, isn't he? He's gone because they did all the usuals, tracked credit cards, debit cards, phone, checked out all the local CCTV, where has he gone? They were tracking the licence plate of Geoff's car, it was stolen, because it's not Daniel's car, he's nicked it, the Honda Civic. I love a Honda Civic. And that comes up with some information, because basically what they find the car, they tracked it to a car park in Cardiff. That's quite a long way away. So he's been driving all this time. He's down in Cardiff, which I believe is Wales. Wales. Another little accent there for you. The CCTV shows Daniel getting out of the car at the car park in Cardiff, and he never returns to it. So the car's dumped now. Done with that. Also at this point, he turns his mobile phone off. So that scuppered them because they can no longer track him from this car park. However, they decide to look at all the CCTV footage again of the local area. Where's he gone? Come on. And they actually find him at Cardiff train station buying a train ticket. So now they need to work out what train ticket he bought, where the hell is he going, and all of that business, because they need to find Daniel. The police in Derby have contacted the police in Cardiff, and they're in communication, and they need to find him quickly. Let's get some air. Panic. Panic sets in. Panic. We're going to have to do it with the door open, I think, the remainder, otherwise I will fall apart. Right. Gin will help. Lovely. This is the point in the case where they interview Zoe, get her on board, because she is Daniel's, like, the love of his life. She's his comfort, his home. So they have all these professionals, don't they, that are like tapped into, like, you know, say this, do that. So clever, like in movies, I imagine. They were like, could she think of anywhere that he might go? You know, she knows him very well. Not sure what happened there in my body about 4 different things. Also, like, is there anything, or has there been anything odd or suspicious about Daniel in the last few days? And she's like, well, actually, yeah. A few days previous to his disappearance and the day it turns out that his father was murdered, she received a text message and a picture from Daniel with an injury to his hand. Early in the morning, Daniel had taken himself to A&E for a nasty slice on his hand, and it had needed stitches and all of that, and he sent her this picture, and he also sent a text message with it, and it's just that I've been a brave little soldier today. I had to go and get stitches in my poorly hand. I was so brave, didn't cry. Knowing what he's just done as well. Twat. Vulnerable. The police, you know, the more they hear, right, we need Daniel, don't we? Itchy nose. So they decide to use Zoe to talk to him on social media and get him to disclose his whereabouts, because they need to know. Somehow he's using social media, so he's either got himself like a phone or something, or he's like using internet cafes or whatever. Do they even have them? They might have done in 2016. We don't have them anymore, do we? I don't know. Libraries, hotels probably have things like that. Anyway, probably got himself like a burner phone, and he was using social media, and he was speaking to Zoe on that, and a real back and forth, lots and lots of messages. They are frustrating. He's just like, I love you so much, don't worry, I'm okay, but I love you so much. And she's like, oh, you know, well, you're clearly not okay, so let's talk about this, shall I meet you? Like, trying to get his whereabouts, and he just has none of it, and he's almost like not listening to anything that she says, just very much like, don't worry about me, I'll be okay, I love you so much. That's the gist. Oh, and that he was scared and confused. The police help her, or these special officers help her to like write her messages, and so that, you know, to really try and latch onto him and try and get him to be like, let's meet, because then at least, you know, they can know where he is. He says he's alone, he says he's scared, he says he's got no money, he says he's high up north. Ooh, little clue. And he says, you know, like he's all alone, and yeah, they really start having a good old back and forth conversation. Keeps going on and on about how lonely he is, how tired he is, how scared he is, how much he misses her, how much he loves her, don't worry, I'm okay. And then eventually she's like, do you know what? Like how much he wants to hug her and stuff like that. So then she just replies, well, the police, like, why don't you just tell me where you are and I'll come and pick you up? Like, you know, she's offering herself like to be there for him and to be his comfort. And he trusts her, and he says that he's in Glasgow, which is in Scotland. Derby police waste zero time. They contact Glasgow and they are like, you need to get to the Drury's Inn, I think he's in. I can't recollect and I can't see in my notes how they knew he was in the Drury's Inn. But anyway, he's in a hotel, and the police in Glasgow get him, and they bring him back to Derby to be interviewed. The absolute douche. All he did the whole time, it so frustrates me. I know that if you were in that situation, you would probably do the same. But he was just, no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment. Can you imagine how frustrating that is? A word. But they had so much evidence against him, and he had fled. I mean, he'd buggered off. So, like that, why? That's suspicious, isn't it? So, come on now, Daniel. They didn't hang about. They did not hang about, and they charged him with his dad's murder. I wrote down a handy timeline of what went down. I'm going to share it with you because it pieces it all together. And then I will share my thoughts on why this case terrifies me, and I have to sleep with one eye open. Okay? Timeline. Ooh, don't break anything. So Geoff was murdered between 10 and 11 p.m. as he was going to bed. And that is horrifying. Like I said, I don't like that at all. Very vulnerable position to be in. Bank records then show that Daniel left almost immediately after murdering his father, and he went and got himself a cheeky Chinese takeaway, a bit hungry after all of that murdering, and then he brought it home and he ate it. That should be all the questioning you ever need. Like, is someone like there, or you know, if they can eat afterwards, it's like, okay, eating. Also, I don't know why, but I really wanted to know what he actually ordered. Oh, is that right? At about 2 a.m, this is when Daniel goes to A&E. Okay, so what they reckon about this is, obviously he'd murdered his father between 10 and 11 and had a nasty cut. And that happens normally, 60 stab wounds. So either the knife has slipped, and also 60 stab wounds at blood, and very slippery affair, I imagine. And just you must lose control. So he had this nasty cut, and obviously from 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night until 2 a.m, he really didn't want to go to A&E. You wouldn't want to, would you? You wouldn't want to go and expose yourself like that. But they think that it just must have he must have realised that this isn't going to stop bleeding and I'm going to have to get myself help. So he waited for quite a long time before he went to A&E, hence why he didn't go till 2 a.m. That's when he also then texted, like at 3 a.m. or something, you know, Zoe, to be like, I've been a brave little soldier. And then comes home after A&E and goes to bed. I need air. Freaking bed. With his dad, just like literally, and that's why it's messed up that he never covered the body. I'll carry on. He woke up the next morning and text his brother pretending to be his dad. So the first red flag. He also then texts his mum for the £100 into the account, same day. Later that day, he withdrew that £100 from his dad's bank account and got himself a McDonald's for dinner. Treat yourself. And then went home again and goes to sleep again. And this is why it's interesting that he made zero attempt to cover his dad's body. I know he was in another room, but still, no remorse, no sense of giving his father any sort of dignity. So even days after, he didn't sort of have another thought process of thinking, what have I done? Oh, nothing like that. No. Wakes up the following morning, and this is when he starts planning his exit strategy. He gets £300 out of his own bank account, withdraws that. Happy as Larry as well, the bank teller, what are they called? The lady behind the counter at the bank, she was like, oh yeah, he's actually seemed quite chipper. Drives home, pretends to be his dad on a phone call, knowing that his brother might have even said to him, Daniel, it was so bizarre. And the police think that at this moment he realised, I've kind of I've done it now. That was a mistake. And that's when he decided that he had to go. So that's when he fled. He drives to Cardiff, he dumps the car, he boards a train to Glasgow. In Glasgow, he actually bought another train ticket to somewhere else that's like the highest point in the country, Thurso, I want to say. And but it's like a tiny little place, so they don't have a train that goes there every day. So he purchased the ticket, but the train didn't leave for 2 days. So that's why he was in a hotel in Glasgow waiting for his train. And this was the jury's inn. And this is where he was communicating with Zoe, and when he finally sort of let his guard down and told her where he was. Piece of crap. His Google searches, once they caught up with him, were all things like police investigations into murders and stuff like that. He basically wanted to be one step ahead of the police. So he wanted to know what they would be doing and what part of the investigation they would be at. Just oh Christ, I've got my feet on something because the floor seemed dirty and I've got no shoes on and it keeps slippy sliding. Okay, but every time my heart nearly comes out of my chest. I won't do it again. So basically he just wanted to know, to stand a good chance at getting away with it. He pleaded guilty. Daniel pleaded guilty. There was none of this no guilty nonsense. He was just yeah, I did it. Okay. In May of 2017, he was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 25 years. And the reason this case just blows my mind and makes me scared, this is horror story shit to me, because there was no history of abuse. I mean, he chose at 31 to live with his dad. It's not he could have just moved out. He could have lived with Zoe. He wasn't trapped in some weird domestic-y, violent-y, family abusive situation. There was none of that business. They were a normal family, and no one could understand why he did this. And such 60 stab wounds and 20 wounds with a hammer. That's rage. Is that not just rage? I mean, you don't just... So to me, that is frightening, because half of the reason why I like to cover cases is to kind of have a look into the backstory. I do a lot more of that than I probably even do put on camera, because I think you can have too much of it. Maybe a video would probably be 100 million minutes long. So I do try and just give the main bits, but I read really in depth most of the time about their childhood and anything I can gather. And there's often things when you're you get this little insight and you're okay, they had an awful tragic life, or some huge event that just blows up. And there was none of that with this. It's just he literally went to bed one night and just horrifically murdered his dad. What? That's scary, isn't it? That's scary. That's what I mean. One eye open. What you doing? Serious. Watch my back when I'm getting in my pyjamas. He says he has no recollection. He doesn't know why he did it. He doesn't really remember doing it. And so he can't explain it. No. Sorry, no. Like, I can't comprehend that. Scares me, this one. Zoe, each to their own. But Zoe, the girlfriend, she's like, I will stand by him. She needs to watch her back when she's getting in her pyjamas if he ever gets out. Jeez Louise. Could you really? I mean, okay. Different folks. She says like she'll just try and block out this event because this isn't like him. That's not a smart move. No. If ever you're going to learn something from something, it's that. Jeez. Anyway, I'm going to bid you adieu because I just can't. I can't be doing this. I'm going to go and lay. I'm going to go and put some ice on my forehead and my feet in some cold water. That'd be nice. And I've got news, right? This is exciting. I basically completed my first year of university and I got the results today of my first year, like how I did, and I passed my first year with a distinction. I found out, oh, squeaky chair. I found out in the morning, as soon as I woke up, for some reason, I never do this, I checked my emails, right? It's like I knew. Checked my emails and it was like, oh, your result, your thing is in. So woke up literally and then I just sobbed like a baby in bed because that was really hard work. It was hard work. I've got to do 2 more years until I'm done. But it was hard, but it was worth it. And I wanted to really like apply myself to something and see how I would do. And yes, I'm chuffed. I am really chuffed. I can't celebrate though because it's just too hot. It's just too hot. I just can't do it. I'm useless. I'm useless until it's cooler or it rains or something. I'm not made for this at all. So yeah, I'm going to go and put my celebration for me tonight is Midsummer Murders on the TV, an ice lolly and my feet in a bucket of water and my mug of gin. That'll do. Thank you so much for joining me today for another episode of Sin and Tonic. I do hope you can join me next week for another true crime story and a mug, glass, jar, vase, bucket of gin. Bye!